are you?
Oh, it's so good to
God,
see you.
it is good to see you.
How have you been?
Terrific. Are you having a good ComDex?
Oh, it's a wonderful show. I mean, it's just a great show. I wanted Web Wars! Anybody who doesn't see the future for some kind of net PC is suffering from a failure of imagination. We've all gotten used to PCs, we're habituated to them, but that doesn't mean we're always going to have them. There's a compelling reason not to, and that is that they cost too much. They break down all the time, they're hard to maintain, they're hard to upgrade, and they become a management nightmare. Not only that, it's planned obsolescence. Companies can't afford to be repeating every couple of years, throwing out their inventory and bringing in a new one. The fact of the matter also is that anybody that knows how to network can get the same kind of personal service out of a network PC that they can get out of something with a hard drive on your desk. And people that don't know about that simply really haven't tried it or haven't had a decent network administrator. Now, whether it's Microsoft or whether it's Sun or those people, I don't know. I personally think it'll probably be something that uses Windows, because Windows is familiar and people won't have to learn a new operating system. But the fact of the matter is, we've got to stop spending so much on PCs, so the net PC, particularly in the corporate environment, is going to be a winner. Your segments on Web Wars. I mean, it's almost impossible to express how deeply I feel about your work. It's profound. It's innovative.
Oh, no, really. No.
Nobody else I know would say anything like you say.
You know, Tim, I'm just honored to share the stage with you. You know, I really am. Listen, you know, I have a daughter. I have a 16-year-old. Her name is Marlo, and she loves you. She watches the Web Wars every week. She'd like to have your autograph.
My autograph?
Would you just?
Tim, the thin client, by which I mean the net PC or the NC, network computer, the thin client is going to be a fat failure. And let me tell you why. It's been tried before. Last time they called it the dumb terminal, and people hated it because it was inflexible and it had lousy response time. Now, of course, not everybody hated it. Management loved it because it was cheap and offered them lots of control. But people never loved dumb terminals the way they loved their PCs. What are Sun and Oracle saying about the NC? Well, they're saying it's cheap and that it gives data processing lots of control. Now, by the way, Microsoft and Intel are saying the same thing about the net PC. Well, I'm convinced that corporations might buy a thin client because of the control issue, but it's never going to come in at $300, which is the price of a set-top box. So what that means is if you want to view the internet from home, you're going to get a personal computer or a set-top box, and you're never going to get an NC or a thin client. That's my opinion. I'm Paul Schindler. Of course, I could be wrong.
Best Web Wars.
Best Web Wars. There you go. She'll love it. She'll love it. You know what? I'm going to press a piece of paper against this and keep it forever, Tim.
Paul, I just don't know how much that means to me, to know that I have the respect of somebody with your depth of intellect, your perception.
Oh, you're turning my head. Look,
we've got to have lunch.
when we get
really
back,
do.
we'll do lunch.
Really, mean it.
All right. Mean it.
All right.
Good to see you.
Take care.
You want opinions? Click on the Web Critic.
Web Wars!
Tim, I've just got one word for you, and that word is bloatware. In my 17 years of covering the computer business, I've never seen a new version of software that wasn't larger than the old version. In fact, software is now so huge it comes on CD-ROMs, because you'd grow old and die trying to wait to load it from floppies. But there's hope, Tim. The internet and the two main internet browsers, Internet Explorer and Netscape, have a different model of software. They're going to use ActiveX and Java to create mini applications instead of mega applications. You know, you could kind of think of it like just-in-time software, the same idea as just-in-time manufacturing. Now look, surveys have shown that most people only use a tiny fraction of the functionality in these bloated applications. Savvy software makers have decided to cut applications down into little applets, small enough to pass through the internet at a reasonable rate of speed and be ready on your desktop with just the functionality you need when you need it. I've seen the future, Tim, and it's named after coffee. Java rules! That's my opinion. I'm Paul Schindler. Of course, I could be wrong.
I've got 2 words for you that's going to explain why we are not going to have Java applets, little software snippets, replace full-blown applications. And those words are OpenDoc. Apple and some of its allies have been trying for years to push the idea of getting away from software bloat. And you know what? They can't even get the vendors to sign on. Why is that? Because vendors compete by adding features. And that's going to continue to be the case. This is a situation with the technology looking for a problem. The other problem with applets is that they're hard to manage. It's tough enough now for me to learn the different things that are in Microsoft Word. If I had to go out and shop for each one, I'd be exhausted. Then I'd have to learn how to combine them. And we haven't even talked about interaction problems. The fact of the matter is, it's a lunatic idea, and it wouldn't come up except that we have an industry where technology is always trying to push other ideas on consumers that they don't really need. When a wonderful product with lots of features costs $149, why break it up into something you have to download off the web?
Hi, Scott Bourne, the web critic here, just reading about the next segment coming up on FirstTV. It's Fresh Faces. Be sure to click on it.
Web Wars! So now they say they can make a 56 KB modem that runs on regular phone lines. Well, Tim, don't you believe it. They may say that it runs at 56,000 baud, but I'm here to tell you it's rarely going to achieve that speed. First of all, most phone lines are pretty crummy. They're rusty, they're noisy, and they're unreliable for anything but voice, which of course is what they were designed for in the first place. Secondly, as you know, the 56 KB modems are not 56 KB in both directions. They receive fast, but they transmit slow. Now that's fine if all you want to do is browse, but woe be unto you if you need to upload a big file. Whoosh, you're back in the dark ages. No, 56 KB modems are not going to take us to nirvana, the weightless World Wide Web. For that, we're going to have to wait for some other technology, be it cable modems, satellite dishes, or improved telephone technology, not to mention faster servers. That's my opinion. I'm Paul Schindler. Of course, I could be wrong.
Hey, 56 kilobit modems sound great to me. I'm an ISDN user, and a lot of times I found that technology to be pretty disappointing. If you can get it to work at an analog modem that I can use in a hotel room or I can put a lot of other places, that'd be wonderful. Now, some people are these old curmudgeon-y types. I'm not being personal here, Paul, but these types that say, oh, man, 2828 is the ceiling. We've got engineering studies that say you can't push that across an analog line and blah, blah, blah. Well, fine. They said that about 28.8. They said that about 33.6. The point is this. They're not talking about the same telephone network. It's changed. The telephone network is more digital now than it has ever been before, and that's the whole principle on which these 56K modems are based. The idea is that you can have a digital connection from the ISP to your central office switch, and that you only have to deal with the short distance coming in, that you use a slower speed going upstream and a faster speed going downstream. It's a new technology based for a new telephone system, and it works. So go ahead and be negative, go ahead and be out of date.
Let me out of this little box! Click on Web Critic. Web Wars! copyright on the net. Now, that's a tough one. Not. As a content provider, I think it's really important to provide intellectual property protection for content on the web. Now, if that's too fancy for you, let me put it more simply. If I can't protect my stuff and get paid for my stuff, then I'm not going to do my stuff. There's a saying on the net that information wants to be free. Well, now that's as may be, but since content providers don't want to starve to death, our choices about intellectual property on the net are in fact limited. Now, we can either somehow ensure that content providers on the network get both income and protection, or we can sit back and watch the internet evolve into the world's largest all-amateur chat room. You've seen unmediated news groups, and you've seen beautiful corporate web pages. Which model for the future of the internet do you find more appealing? Now, I'm not sure that the ideas about intellectual property and copyright protection that are being kicked around today are necessarily the right ideas, but they are a step in the right direction. That's my opinion. I'm Paul Schindler. Of course, I could be wrong.
Okay, everybody agrees that somehow artists have to get, or writers have to get compensated for your work. You just can't give everything away, and if people have a chance to steal everything, that's the same as giving it away. So there has to be some basic copyright protection. That's okay, but look what happens. I mean, you hand it off to a bunch of people, a bunch of negotiators in Geneva who are off by themselves with no relationship to the real world, and what do? They create a document that may turn out to be the Communications Decency Act of the copyright world. In other words, they won't just be worried about what's obscene or pornographic, they'll be after every bit of content out there. And what are they considering? They're considering things like whether or not your ISP should have to be responsible for whether you are doing something that is breaking somebody's copyright. Well, that's going to create a police state. How is the ISP going to do that? Are they going to have to watch everything you say? Or are you going to get like email from your ISP saying, I'm sorry, you can't say that? The point of the matter is that this is a tremendously complex issue in a new and evolving technology, and we should not jump to solutions this fast. We need some time to think about this and some time to study. We shouldn't rush to legislation, and that's what I see the people in Geneva doing.
Click on Screenplay and let the Z-Man guide you through the world of online gaming.
Hello and welcome to the Los Angeles Convention Center in sunny Los Angeles, California, where they're holding Spring Internet World 97. Now, what's the theme of the show? Well, of course it's about the internet, but to borrow a line from Cuba Gooding Jr. in the movie Jerry Maguire, show me the money. That's right, this is where the internet starts to get down to business. A lot of the exhibits here are business-to-business exhibits, and it's all about how you can actually start to make money on the internet. There are hundreds of exhibitors and thousands of attendees, and it's a little less of a party than Internet World usually is because people really want to get serious about the internet.
It is the place to be.
That's it for this week's First TV News from Spring Internet World in Los Angeles. I'm Paul Schindler. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.
It had been a hot afternoon, the kind that makes you wish we'd never left the ocean. And I was beginning to think that maybe my trip to the old watering hole was a mistake. You see, a detective has a sixth sense about these things. Thank God. Because the other 5 had already gone numb. I had been fishing for information on the CMP summit, but he wasn't biting. So I decided to switch bait, from olives to Franklin's. Hooked, but not surprising. You see, bartenders always eat their greens. That's how they grow up big and strong. Not like me. I just grew up curious. As he handed me the key, I whispered the password. Lead up, Mike. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew I liked saying it, so I said it again. Lead a Mike. He shot me a look straight out of a Magnum 45. He thought it would make me flinch, but it only made me pee my pants. I made a mental note. Don't repeat the password unless you're wearing your wool suit. The CMP Summit. I knew so little. It could be almost anything. I swam to the door and tried the key. Success. Oh my, so many colors.
On the internet, content is king. Lady Luck continues to be queen, with J&Q Public as the 10 of diamonds. But in this marketplace, you need jacks or better to open. That's why a lot of startups are saying, hit me. Well, of course it's all about bandwidth. The bigger the band, the more width you're going to need. But people tend to forget, it's also about depth.
More domains, more commercials, more people spending more time, spending more money. The net effect.